By the power of God, Zeus, and the bear conductor, it came from the internet. Hi, Dylan.
Hi.
I'm David, and we're here again. We got to stop doing this so often. People are going to start expecting them more often, and we can't have that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I figure we should get one more in before Zelda comes out, because that's going to be it for a while, I think.
Yes. But we're here this week to talk about speedrunners.
Speedruns! King David.
So we're talking about speedrunners, that game that came out a couple years ago where you ran.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
You didn't I thought we played speedrunners together at one point.
No. I don't think anyone has ever played Speedrunners. I think you're making this up.
It's a game.
Are you talking about Bit Trip Runner?
No, it's called Speedrunners, and it's a running game. It's like a racing game. But I like Bit Trip
No one
Runner
knows
too.
what you're
It has an
talking
amazing
about.
soundtrack. That's not true. Someone knows what I'm talking about, and they're like, "That game was okay, whatever."
No, they're not. Speedrunning! What's speedrunning, David? Well, let me tell you. Described as the greatest act of degeneracy man has ever produced by one notable runner, speedrunning is the simple act of completing a game with the fastest time possible.
Why?
One would figure this would be pretty straightforward, but through the years, the last 17 years now, the community has evolved, it has shifted, it has fractured, and it has regrown many times in many different formats.
Okay, so we're going to explain this, but from my basic understanding where we are right now, I know what speed running is. I know that twice a year there's awesome games done quickly and summer games done quickly. Well, they're each once a year, but there are two big speed
We
running
will.
charity things. We'll get there, and then
We are.
there are
We are. Yeah.
from what I understand, there are two camps of speedrunners: speedrunners and tool-assisted speedrunners that like modify certain things to assist in their runs. And those are the two big camps because it's about purity or ingenuity, I guess.
Yes and no. If we had made this a few years ago, I would say you're completely correct that the community is split between there. Split's a little too, because the two communities are amicable. They are not at each other's throats, and they are not diametrically opposed. Runners who run TASs usually do normal runs, and people who do normal runs will use tool-assisted stuff to help learn the game, usually. Where we are at right now, what speedrunning is at, is a completely different schism.
Oh, really?
Where we are is whether or not speedrunning needs to go mainstream.
What?
That's the question that's hit the community in the last couple months. Does speedrunning need to go mainstream?
What does that even mean?
We're going to talk about that, David.
Okay.
I have compiled a pretty great timeline, if I do say so myself, of the entire history of speedrunning from 1980 to today.
Holy shit.
And it all begins. Let's be honest, speedrunning itself just has the basis in any sporting activity. Completing things quickly is just something humans have interest in. Races, races.
Yeah.
I was going to name other things, but literally every other thing I was going to name is just a different kind of race. It's just something people do. Being fast is something humans strive for. It's the reason people drive fast cars. It's the reason why people shell out a shit ton of money for like premium cables for their computers that don't make it go faster, but they make you think it goes faster. It's just something humans like, is being fast. And speedrunning is a primal urge. we know it today won't really come about until the 2000s, but it does have a much earlier history. The first recognized speedrun ever completed is for the Atari 2600 game Dragster. Dragster is a very simple game. You are player one, and you are battling a CPU component. The controls are basically to accelerate, decelerate, and to shift gears. The goal of the game is to constantly improve your score, not to beat the CPU opponent, because the computer is believed to be impossible to beat.
Oh, really?
In 1980, retro gaming enthusiast Todd Rogers was able to beat the computer opponent in Dragster with a time of 5 seconds, 51 milliseconds.
Holy shit.
Rogers is someone that, if you pay attention to the competitive video game scene, will reoccur. He's really known for playing a lot of older arcade stuff, and he gets picked up for companies to do promotional stuff every once in a while.
That's kind of cool.
He's also the co-owner of ACW Underground Wrestling.
That's weird.
Is it? You know who talks about video games. How many of them talk about wrestling?
Dan Reichert.
A lot of them. Jeff Gersman, fucking... there's so many game journalists like wrestling that every year at PAX, they have their own fake little wrestling league.
That's true, and I do like those videos.
And that's beyond even them. Like, you look on the internet, every fucking internet reviewer talks about wrestling. Spoonie talks about wrestling. Movie Bob talks about wrestling. Jim Sterling's probably talked about wrestling a few times. The fucking cucks over at Random Assault talk about wrestling.
I want to get into wrestling, but there's too much, and I can't. I don't have enough time.
No, you don't. You don't.
I do.
You don't want to get into wrestling.
Don't tell me what I want. I do want to get into it, but I refuse to get into it.
What was that thing I told you had to watch or play and you didn't immediately listen? It was Legion. Do you remember how I told you Legion was the best show for Marvel? And you said, like, I don't believe that. And then it came out and you saw it? Yeah, that's this again. Don't get into wrestling.
How is that this again? I'm not going
because
to
I'm telling you, it's not worth it.
Anyway. I'm not going to get in. It's never worth it, except for Legion.
Todd Rogers held in high esteem. However, there have been some people who have claimed that his record may not be legitimate. Evidently, the record has never been matched by anyone, which is almost impossible in the speedrunning community. Apparently, not even tool-assisted speedruns can hit his time. Now, Todd Rogers, again, he's not only known for this. He has done records on other games. It's very unlikely that he cheated. I would say what's maybe most likely is the game glitched. It gave him a time.
Has he recreated it?
No, I don't believe so. I couldn't find a whole lot of information about Todd Rogers, though. He is a Z-tier celebrity, and his Wikipedia page is not properly cited. It just says that he's a celebrity. More work than one person would put in, but it's not enough to give any substantial information. But that's the first speedrun as we know it today. It would not be 13 years until speedrunning would start to form as a community with the release of Doom. Doom is the first major game to have a speedrunning sort of group form up around it. And the reason for that is because Doom had a unique feature wherein which you could record your runs, upload the file to, and other users could download it and they could watch your runs. Now, it wasn't a video file. It really was just the game taking note of the movements of all the enemies and taking note of all your movements and then replicating them in the game. So there was no actual video transferring going on because it was 1993 and that wasn't viable yet. Do you remember the video sort of service that Halo 3 had?
Yes.
It's basically that, where like in Halo 3 you could fast forward, but you could not rewind because it wasn't a video. It was just the game replaying actions.
Yes.
So a handful of websites pop out around Doom and the sharing of these videos, but the first one that was built specifically for the fastest time is called Compet-N. COMPET-N. It's supposed to say competing, but it's all fancy and techno. You get it?
Fancy and techno. Got it.
It was the 90s. Competing.
It is the
Competing.
90s and there's time for clacks.
Competing. Fuck, I hate saying the goddamn name of this thing. Competing. It doesn't even say competing. It's like Compet-N. It's not competing. God damn it. Compet-N still exists today. That makes it the oldest known speedrunning website at 25 years.
Holy shit.
It's old as shit. It's not really up and running. Like, it's running, there are people there, but it's not a popular community. Their last post was in, like, the last post on the front page was last year, and the last forum post that I read was from, like, a week ago. So, I also have a list of some of the records for Doom because it is such an important game. These are the modern day records for Ultimate Doom. If you want to look these up, you have to look up Ultimate Doom. Just look up Doom. You're going to get the 2016 Doom.
AKA fucking awesome.
Yeah. There are 4 categories for Doom. Most games have multiple categories because they have multiple requirements for reaching the ending. So we can sort of go through the terminology of that. For Ultimate Doom, there is UV Speed, UV Max. UV is the name, is a shorthand for the highest difficulty of Doom, Ultraviolence. UV Speed is just completing the game quickly. UV Max is completing the game by finding all the secrets and killing all the enemies. The current record for UV Speed Ultimate Doom is 4 minutes, 57 seconds. It's held by a user named Zero Master.
Wow.
And he claimed it last year.
How do you do that?
Before him, the shortest record was held by Stixvile, who had 5 minutes flat that he made in 2006. So that record stood for 10 years before Zero Master was able to take it down like a few months ago. He did it in like late October.
Jesus Christ. And by a lot. By like a minute and a half.
No, he beat it by 3 seconds. 4 minutes, 57 seconds.
Oh, I thought you said it was 6 minutes.
No, it was 5 minutes. The record for Ultraviolence Max is 19 minutes, 44 seconds by Razilk. And it was succeeded by... it succeeded Stixvile's 1956. Sorry, I'm fucking up here. So Stixvile was evidently the man to beat in the Doom community in the mid-2000s. Succeeded by Doom was Quake. Not only did Quake take the title of definitive first-person shooter, Quake took the title of definitive speedrunning game from Doom.
Oh, shit.
Rather than having... Because it had the same feature that Doom had of recording movements, so you could easily... Yeah.
It was the same company.
It was the same company. It was not any... Like, they had to rebuild that game from scratch to make it run. But it is like they had a reason to put it back in there. Rather than what Doom had, because Doom had websites that sort of cropped up around Doom that all had different requirements for different stuff. Quake, instead, users for Quake would just upload their files to Simtel. Simtel was a website that was integral to the rise of freeware and free software. Simtel in the 90s was a place where you could get a lot of free stuff. It was sort of where hacker culture kind of spread from. And it's actually, I believe, I don't know this for sure, it sounds like Simtel originates as a software for missile silos.
Holy shit.
For the years, as it became defunct, one of the programmers rejiggered it to be a shareware thing.
That's cool.
The demos for Quake were separated into two camps: 100% demos, in which you had to complete the level by killing all enemies and finding all secrets, and levels where users tried to finish with the quickest time, known as runs. This is the first time in the history of speedrunning that something has been known as a run. Before this, they were only known as demos or records, where the word speedrunning comes from. Now, it's important here is there's no scoreboard for Quake like there is for Doom. There's no website. It's just users flinging their shit out into the ether for other users to find. This highlights something very important about speedrunners that I think we should talk about real fast, which is the speedrunner mentality. Someone speedrun, do you think?
Because they're weird.
Yes, but like, imagine you have to justify speedrunning to yourself as a hobby. What would you say? What would you say to yourself?
I have to be the best.
You have to be the best. So for you, it would be competition. It would be, I have to have the world record. I have to be number one.
Yeah.
Where me and you differ from most speedrunners. Speedrunners see speedrunning not as a race to have the highest time, but as a almost monk-like task to complete for personal betterment. The same way like Tibetan monks have to like constantly like polish statues and clean floors, speedrunners have to play through the game as well as they can to become a better person, more or less.
That's nuts.
Have you heard of that before?
No.
About how the
nuts.
monks have to like, yeah, monks have to constantly do like menial work, and it's not because it's their job. Yeah, but for anyone who doesn't, monks usually have to constantly be doing very menial tasks. And it's not because they get paid for it, and it's not because they're at the bottom of like the temple ladder and they have to climb their way up. It's because that's what monks do. They believe every time they scrub the floor or every time they polish the statue, they are becoming a better person inside. It's not in so many words, but speedrunners take on that mentality. It doesn't really matter that you have the world record for most speedrunners. What matters is that you've beaten your previous time. You are constantly shedding it down because you are trying to become maybe not a better person, but a better runner. And it is for many of them, it is about self-worth. It's directly tied, and the more and more you shave that time down, the closer to, I suppose, enlightenment you become.
Interesting.
So for the users of Doom, there was a scoreboard to top. For the users of Quake, there wasn't. There was just a community of people. They almost weren't producing the demos to show off. They were producing the demos so someone could bear witness to what they had done. They were leaving a record so others could know that it was indeed real. And not as a record necessarily to beat, but as personal proof for them that they had accomplished it. Let me take a quick minute here. So there's a few more websites that pop up. Quake. Sorry, hold on one second. I'm getting ahead of myself. Excuse me. So the next major thing we want to talk about is Nightmare Speed Demos. Nightmare Speed Demos was a website that popped up to archive the various runs of the top Quake players.
Why was it called that?
It was called Nightmare Speedruns because Nightmare is the highest difficulty for Quake. And at the time, there was a conversation within the community of should you play on Nightmare or should you play on Easy? Because on Easy, you can get a faster time, but it's an easier game. So does that count? Nightmare speed demos would later have their best players put all their runs together and splice it into something called Quake Done Quick. Quake Done Quick was a composition of the absolute lowest times that the players had been able to make, making it the first full game speedrun on record. Later versions of Quake Done Quick would go in and add recams, which is where you kind of set the camera.
Done Quick comes from? Is Quake Done Quick?
Yes, more directly than you might think. Later versions of Quake Done Quick came out that were the same run, but with like some fancy editing, which also makes Quake Done Quick one of the first machinima. It's a pretty crude one.
I like machinima. I used to like machinima. I haven't watched it in years.
That one day, just you and me.
We have to cover Red versus Blue.
Yeah, we will, because that got real fucking stupid.
It was so good.
So, as you might imagine, there were a handful of different Quake sites, but this is the fairly early days of the internet. This is like 1996. So hosting and shit is expensive. So instead of having all these different sites, they decided to bury the hatchet on all of the different Quake sites would coalesce into a singular website, the Speed Demos Archive. Just for the record, Quake has 4 categories, 2 for normal playthroughs on Easy and Nightmare, and 2 for 100% playthroughs. The Easy run record is held by a user named Jukebox at 12 minutes, 17 seconds, earned only 3 months ago in November 2016.
That's not bad.
The Nightmare run is held by Kukii. I don't know how to say this user's name. Kukkye at 15 minutes even. That one was earned earlier this month. That one was earned at the start of February 2017.
Holy shit, dude.
Easy 100% is held by Elgu at 38:29, and Nightmare 100 is held by Mario Galinsky at 1 hour, 8 minutes, 49 seconds, and has stood untied for 9 years.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
So hold on one second. I have to go a little further down here to talk about one of these other websites. I didn't go back and fix my formatting for this one. So one of the next sites that came around in 2000 was the Elite Rankings. The Elite Rankings has been in constant use since 2000. It's not just still a website today. It's still a website that is used constantly. It still has a very vibrant and lively player base. The Elite Rankings catalogs the speeds of users for GoldenEye 64 and Perfect Dark. Since those games have the same engine, they have a lot of the same exploits, and there's a very high carryover between runners for it.
Huh.
The Elite Rankings is also, notably, the only fucking speedrunning website that doesn't look like it was made 20 years ago. All right? It still looks old as shit, but it actually looks like a website that was made by a person and not spat out by a computer whose job is just to churn out websites as fast as possible. Every fucking speedrunning website looks like trash except for the Elite Rankings, and it doesn't really look all that good.
That's pretty crazy.
But I digress.
I like
the Elite
Dark.
Rankings. The Elite Rankings is a good example of what speedruns should be. A well-oiled machine of efficiency with every possible subcategory filed down to its lowest possible time. And there's 6,000 subcategories for GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. There's not literally, but there's dozens. Like these other games have 2 or 3. GoldenEye and Perfect Dark have dozens because users will just randomly decide to do, like, I don't know, License to Kill mode, which is a mode where you crank up enemy accuracy, enemy damage and enemy speed, so no enemies can see you, because the moment they see you, they'll shoot you and kill you. So you have to kill every enemy before they see you. And then someone will try to do that shit as fast as possible.
What is wrong with people?
You play the same game for fucking 17 years, you gotta get creative. The main reason I want to talk about the elite rankings is because it has a really cool ranking system. It brings back the scoreboard from the Doom days, but rather than being purely about time, it is about points. Points are divvied out. Rank 1 gets 100 points, rank 2 gets 97 points, and rank 3 gets 95 points. From there, every rank below gets one less point. So rank 4 is 94, rank 5 is 93, rank 6 is 92, so on and so forth. The reason for that is to better visualize the gap in skill between first place, second place, and third place.
Jesus.
Yeah, so you can see this is almost diametrically opposed to how most speedrunners approach speedrunning, because it is very much about competition. It is about being number one. The board for the elite rankings has a total possible score of 6,000. 100 points for every level in the game. There are, for GoldenEye, that is. There are 20 levels in GoldenEye, and there are 3 difficulties, which all have their own timing for it. Now, the thing that makes the elite rankings interesting is that there's no maximum on tied records, and you don't need to be the first to get the full amount of points. So if you get... So let's say me and you are playing the first level of GoldenEye, David, the Dam. You get the highest possible time of 53 seconds. And then I get 53 seconds. Me and you are both ranked number 1. We both get 100 points.
That's awesome.
But let's say Matt from Random Assault gets 54 seconds because he's an asshole. He doesn't get 97 points, even though 97 points is the second place. Because when you're tied, you still hold your previous point position. So I'm not just rank 1. Behind the scenes, I'm rank 2. I don't get those points, but I'm occupying that space. He only gets 95. So even though his rank is 2... Sorry, he's not rank 2, even though he's second place. He is rank 3. He only gets 95 points. Okay. Now, what makes the system genius is that, theoretically, every single user on the board can have the maximum points of 6,000. However, substitute for being second place. There's no good enough award. It really is a system devised to force you to want to be not necessarily better than everyone else, but as good as the best. Okay. It's a very bizarre system, but I spent like 2 hours learning it, and it was great. I don't know why. I felt like a fucking math dork for the first time in my life. But as you can imagine, yeah. So, and also, it's just a scoreboard. Like, there is also just pure time. And if you don't give a shit about the scoreboard, who cares, But it is this weird habit of there are users who have 3 or 4 world records untied, but they are ranked 80 on the board because they only run 3 or 4 levels. There's a healthy amount of people on the elite rankings who don't do every level. They just don't do them. So they're not getting points for those levels. So theoretically, you could, if you wanted to do this, you could spend about a month, and I bet you could break the top 50 on the elite just by getting like relatively high times on every level. I believe the current highest rank one has like 58-53 as their point total. So no one has the full 6,000 yet. Okay. For GoldenEye, at least.
Very complicated.
I didn't look up the world record for GoldenEye because GoldenEye does not have is not a single run game. You do individual levels, and then your total time is the sum of those times. So you don't have to sit down and play the game for fucking 80 hours or whatever.
It does not take 80 hours to play GoldenEye.
Does how I do it.
It's not that long of a
Next up, Metroid 2002. Now, Metroid has always had a strong incentive for users to play the game as fast as possible, because that was the only way that you could maybe see a girl who had a little bit of skin back when Metroid came out. But there was no internal recording method for the NES, and so there was really no way to put that footage out there on the internet in the 80s and 90s.
Well, I mean, there was barely an internet for most of that.
It wasn't until the release of Metroid Prime that fan sites sprung up, and even then, early speedrunning sites focused more on giving users information on strategy than sharing recordings. Metroid Prime Discoveries was the first of these sites, later revamped as Metroid 2002 to expand its coverage to Metroid Fusion, which was new at the time, and further expanded to cover the series as a whole after absorbing a sister site named Metroid Online. Metroid 2002 grew some notoriety when a user, I think it was the founder, posted a 1 hour, 37-minute run of the then brand new Metroid Prime to the site. And this story got circulated very heavily in the early 2000s on gaming sites, and it got translated into different languages. The user base for the website doubled overnight, literally. The site blew up because no one had seen anything like that before. Before this, it is Doom and Quake, which are old games now, and it's GoldenEye, and it's probably some asshole who's got a camera pointed at the screen for it. Whereas this was someone playing a huge fucking game, almost an hour and a half. The traffic influx to the site was so bad, Metroid 2002 had to merge with another site, the previously mentioned Speed Demo Archives. What this did was it expanded Speed Demo Archives from a Quake website to a general game repository. And Speed Demo Archives is still to this day the biggest resource for posting world records and posting speedruns. Speed Demos Archives are the guys who put on Games Done Quick.
Okay.
In case you were wondering, the current world record for Super Metroid any percent is I think this is 100%. Is 41 minutes 56 seconds by Oats and Goats, while the world record for Metroid Prime is
Oats and Goats.
Oats and Goats, great username. While the world record for Metroid Prime is 1 hour 4 minutes by T3.
Okay.
All right, so it's 2001. Now we're getting to tool-assisted speedruns, David.
Okay.
In 2001, user Morimoto released a video of Super Mario Bros. 3 where he was able to beat the game perfectly in 11 minutes. When I say perfectly, I mean perfectly. Not a single mistake. He finished the game with 99 lives because on the auto-scrolling levels, he was so good, he was racking up points left and right and just getting 1-ups constantly. This circulated for a while, and it was believed to be the work of an incredibly skilled player before Morimoto revealed it was a demo for a altered emulator, making it the first modern tool-assisted speedrun. Now, some people say some of the Doom and Quake runs could count because you could slow it down and look at it frame by frame, but I don't think that should count. I think a tool-assisted speedrun requires you to be using an outside tool while playing the game. So I'm sure you can understand the fledgling speedrunning community is pretty heavily fragmented by this video because you're kind of staring your own obsolescence in the face. Do you remember the start of Jurassic Park where they are using like that computer to like check for bones under the ground, and someone's like, "We're not going to have to dig anymore," and Dr. Grant says, "Well, where's the fun in that?"
Yes, I do remember.
That's what the speedrunning community is going through. You can You can find the absolute optimal route using tools, but who cares? Like, the fun is doing it yourself. And again, this is like a dude bringing a vacuum to a Tibetan temple or something. Like, no, you don't understand. It's about doing the difficult task. It's not about getting it clean. You see. So in the early 2000s, NES Videos pops up, a website that archives the various emulation runs of the games who are using this altered emulator, and also a place where you can upload and download video files of the runs, because we're finally hitting the point where video files can be easily shared on the internet. The website is called NES Videos because originally the emulator only ran on an NES emulator, but it was eventually renamed TAS Videos after the technology caught up and they were able to extend it to other games. Oh, excuse me. So despite the shaky ground in 2001, today the TAS and purist community have an amicable relationship, as previously stated, with a huge amount of crossover between the two. Now, I looked this up. I looked it up. I didn't write it down, so I don't know the exact time, but I do believe that tool-assisted video has been beaten by a normal person. So that tool-assisted run of Brothers 3 is not the world record currently.
That's crazy.
There's some of that is because people have discovered other glitches, but there's like a particular glitch called a wrong warp. I guess I can explain what this is right now. It's as good a time as any. One of the more complex forms of glitching and speedrunning is called arbitrary code injection. And the basic idea is that when you're playing a video game, items in your inventory have like a specific string of code, and when you hit the requirements, the game just enters that string of code. And with certain games, Nintendo games especially, it seems, you can trick the game into thinking you've hit those requirements, or you can trick the game into thinking that this line of code is this line of code. So instead of, say, picking up, say, a ruby, you're picking up light arrows, and that lets you, and using that, you can skip to the end of the game or something.
Okay.
Some of them are very complex. Some of them are very fucking hard to get your head around. But this is how games that have 20 to 30 hour expected play times get pushed down into 20 minutes. Is you're really fucking with the game's code by breaking it, and the game thinks you're at the end of the game.
Okay.
It's pretty crazy. Okay, so in 2006, Mike Uyama took over as administrator for the Speed Demos archive, and he would spend the next few years expanding the role of the website. In 2010, Mike had a novel idea of a speedrunning marathon where they would try to raise money for charity. Classic Games Done Quick took place over 3 days during MagFest 8 in 2010, and they raised over 10 grand for the CARE charity, which is a general relief charity.
Okay.
The following year, Classic Games Done Quick was split into 2 larger marathons. Awesome Games Done Quick, done in January, and Summer Games Done Quick, done in summer, obviously. After the first year, Awesome Games Done Quick teamed up with the Prevent Cancer Foundation, who they've been with since 2011. Summer Games Done Quick initially worked with a charity to prevent autism, but realizing the grand irony of the situation, shifted to I think it was another cancer foundation. Just like the autistic joke. I didn't actually bother to look up what they. No, it's Doctors Without Borders. Never mind. I wrote that down too. Fun fact: Doctors Without Borders is the inspiration for the Militaries Sans Frontieres from Metal Gear. Diamond Dogs. I remember going back and watching some of the runs to get ready for. Am I still on the podcast, David?
What?
Am I still here?
Yeah, no. Keep going. I'm listening.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because you weren't talking. I don't know if that's just because I'm on a roll though. Sorry. Doctors Without Borders is the inspiration for the MSF from Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. When I went back and watched runs for SGDQ, in the corner they have Medicines Sans Frontieres for Doctors Without Borders. Military Sans Frontieres is Soldiers Without Borders or Military Without Borders. And I thought, oh, that's cute. They found a little parallel. And then I thought it might have been like a Child's Play situation where, like, no, this is an organization by gamers and they took the name from the MSF. It's the opposite. The Doctors Without Borders was founded by French. It was founded by a French group for relief in, I want to say, Costa Rica in 1971, which is when and Peace Walker does have a French character specifically join the group so that they can sort of parallel it. So in the Metal Gear world, instead of Doctors Without Borders, they got Soldiers Without Borders. So there you go. That's a Metal Gear lore fact I did not know. So you didn't know it either.
Snake Eater.
Yes, David, Snake Eater. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. I'm still learning how to use this phone. How do I make this overlay go? No, I want it to go down.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sorry. I'll just work around it. Okay. The following year, no, I already read that. So Games Done Quick has gone on every year since 2010. The two marathons coexist. They happen at different times of the year, but they are the same organization. Mikuyama runs both of them. Now, Mikuyama disappeared from the community in 2013. After 2013, he didn't show up to AGDQ or SGDQ ever. I don't believe he has shown up again yet. So there's a question, this is a reoccurring question in the speedrunning community of whatever happened to Mikuyama. And the answer seems to be that Mikuyama contracted mono in 2014, so he was not able to participate. But that was 3 years ago. So where is he now?
No one knows?
No. Well, we know he exists. We know he's collecting a salary, but we also know he works for the Prevent Cancer Foundation, and we know only 20% of the proceeds that are raised by AGDQ actually go to preventing cancer. Most of it gets funneled back into the operation like most charities. So Mikuyama, as CEO of GDQ, is making fat stacks because they are raising a shit ton of money. Last year was the first year that AGDQ raised over $2 million.
Holy shit.
And something like 10 or 15% of that might go to Mikuyama directly. So there's a lot of speculation on what happened to Mikuyama and what the fuck he's doing. He just doesn't seem to be here anymore. And another thing we need to touch upon.
What are the prevailing theories?
The prevailing theories are that Mikuyama is maybe disgusted with himself, that he has sold speedrunning out. Because again, speedrunners see it as an act of personal betterment almost, and Mikuyama is profiting off of it. Some people think he might just be living it up. He might genuinely dislike speedrunning now, or he might know that if he goes out in public, he's going to say something that he shouldn't say. So the Prevent Cancer Foundation is sort of keeping him on the down low. Alternatively, Mikuyama might just be too busy. He might not be able to speedrun anymore because he's too busy setting up these fucking charity runs all the time. And if he can't speedrun, why show up, you know?
Well, I mean, if people are like, where the fuck did this guy go? You'd think he'd be like, hey, I'm here, I'm just working.
Yeah.
You feel like a message like that's so simple. Because then you
Yeah,
don't have assholes like us speculating on the internet that he's just siphoning a bunch of money, which he's probably not doing.
well, he's not siphoning the money. He's just getting it. Like it's legal. This is just how charities work. If anyone at home thinks that all money a nonprofit makes goes to the fucking actual research, it doesn't. 20% of the Cancer Foundation's raised funds go to preventing cancer. The rest of it goes to paying the hundreds of people who helped set this shit up. So he's not like skimming off the top. He's
No, I
earning
know.
his wage. It's
I
just,
know.
like how do you explain that to this community of people who almost seem ideologically opposed to making money doing this? And one last thing we have to talk about specifically is AGDQ 2014.
What happened in 2014?
I don't know what the fuck happened in 2014, but for some reason, almost everything wrong with this community today can be traced back to AGDQ 2014 in one way or another.
How? What does that even mean?
We'll get to that. I do want to say that there's a hefty amount of criticism towards GDQ by modern speedrunners, casual and professional alike. In 2016, the group seemed to really clamp down on whatever they considered family unfriendly content. There was a run of Jak and Daxter by a user named Bonesaw. The run was done at like 2 a.m. He had not slept.
Bonesaw's ready.
He had not slept for like a day, and his plane was super late, so he didn't have a hotel room yet, so he was not ready. And the run is like, it's bad. It's really bad. But he's having so much fun, and his stupid friends are on the couch making jokes about Owen Wilson and car keys all the time. And it's just, it feels like sitting down with your friends at 2 a.m. and fucking around. And it's heartwarming, and people were really into it. Bonesaw is banned from GDQ until 2018 for that.
But people liked it, and he's still banned?
He's still banned. People liked it. People, donated more in that block than any other block because of it. And GDQ uploaded that to their fucking YouTube account, and they didn't edit it, so apparently you can still watch the run, and you can give them ad revenue for the run, but Bonesaw just cannot actually do another one. Another problem is speedrunner Big John. Big John was someone that I thought we would cover on this particular episode. Does not look like we will, because there's not really much to talk about. He's a fat fetishist. He, for a while, wanted to have the world's biggest gut, and he was cataloging his, I suppose, climb to triumph on a fat fetishist website named Grommer. And one user found it and posted it to the speedrunning forums, and Big John went into full fucking damage control mode and deleted all of his Grommer shit. Despite that, Big John is held in pretty high regard in the community for being someone who's actually able to talk while playing games, so he's actually kind of interesting to watch. And I went and I watched one of his speedruns. He speedruns a few games. He speedruns Super Mario, the Lost Levels, and he speedruns NES Golf. And he's genuinely entertaining. So who cares if he likes fatties? At AGDQ 2016, at the end of his Lost Level run, he says, thank you for having me. Really happy I was able to run this game again. And here's hoping that we can maybe get some new different types of games at GDQ. And real fast, not even a second, he puts up a golf game. Like, he picks up a cart of NES Golf. Banned.
Why?
Because he was circumventing the fuck, what is it? God damn it. Why can't I talk? Why can't I think properly? Oh, the submission process. Apparently, he really wanted NES Golf at GDQ, and GDQ really did not want it at GDQ. And he also said that he might have been harassed by. He also was talking a little bit about being harassed by security when he arrived at the event because he's big and black. Now, I think that ban got overturned relatively quickly because I do believe he was at GDQ 2017. But I don't know the full story behind that. I couldn't find much more about it. GDQ 2015 had some minor. Sorry.
So the whole. So how did they connect the fat fetish thing to that guy?
Because you can see him. It's him in the pictures that he's taking on Grommer.
Oh. Okay.
He was physically photographing himself with his big ass stomach, and on stream you could just see him.
His face.
Yeah, like they're full body shots.
That's just dumb.
Yeah. AGDQ 2015 had some minor problems. Did you see that video of that one user who made all the suicide jokes during his Crash Bandicoot 2 run?
Vaguely.
He was banned from GDQ for life, and his Twitch account was permanently deleted.
Holy shit! Like
Scorched
he did that,
fucking
or
earth.
they did it?
They Twitch did it. Like people mass reported him for his abusive content, which it wasn't abusive. It was just stupid. I felt bad for that guy. Also in 2016 in 2017, excuse me, at the very end of the run, every year at Games Done Quick, they have a Super Metroid race. And whenever you watch Games Done Quick, someone will donate to say kill the animals or save the animals. At the end of Super Metroid, you can either save or murder all these animals at the end. It's faster to kill them, but you can save them if you want to. And people donate whether we think we should kill them or let them live. And it's like the lowest. I think like you can put in the lowest amount and put in for it. So it gets a lot of donations. Apparently at some point someone actually almost beat the world record, but they had to save all the animals and they were like a second over the limit. That's funny.
That is pretty funny.
So at the last one, for some fucking reason, anytime the fucking like pickup sound effect in Super Metroid played, you know the sound effect that plays when you pick shit up in Metroid.
Yes.
A bunch of stupid motherfuckers in the audience would like mimic it as Waluigi. So someone picks up something, and it's a race. There's 4 players playing, so they're always picking shit up. And just in the background, you just hear, "Wee!" And after like 30 minutes, there's a dude, because at GDQ they have people on the couch who are supposed to co-commentate so that the runner can focus on the run. He asked the dude next to him for his headset, and he just goes, "None of you people are funny. If you really want to prevent cancer, go stand in the street."
What the fuck? That's really funny.
It's great. And then like a second later, he's just in the back corner. Someone just goes, "Wee!" Fuck. You really gotta see it because the way the one dude whans is so fucking hard. It sounds like he pulled a muscle while he was doing it. Fuck. I don't think he's anyone important, but it was really fucking funny. Whew. All right. So now that we have covered a brief history of speedrunning, we know what speedrunning is, we know how people who speedrun feel, and we know how people who speedrun get into it.
But so wait, so there are 2 different camps of speedrunning now. One who's okay with profiting off of it, and one that feels like it's a betrayal to the core of what speedrunning is?
Yes.
Okay.
This is fairly recent. I guess I should talk about this real fast. No, okay, this is actually the part we're at. We know what speedrunning is. Now we're going to learn about the people who actually speedrun. And to talk about to answer your point, there are three main people in the community who are at the forefront of this, of the lowering the barrier of entry. A YouTuber named Apollo Legend, a YouTuber named Mr. Hyrule Gamer, and a speedrunner named R White Goose. Apollo Legend is pretty simple. He produces these little compilation videos of speedrunning shit. Originally, it was just like, oh, here's speedrunners being upset, or oh, here's speedrunners being really happy that they got world records. And then he slowly started to expand it into like, hey, like, let me actually explain some of the history of speedrunning. Like, let me tell you what the first speedrun was. Let me tell you about these world records that can't be beaten. Did you know that by using arbitrary code injection, someone has a time of 0 seconds in Pokemon Red? They do.
What? How?
It's the in-game timer. The in-game timer registers it up as 0, 0, 0, 0, and that was the official time. To the point where that glitch had to just be banned because it was an impossible record to beat. So Apollo Legend was sort of getting his groove going, and a certain speedrunner was included, and that speedrunner like did a DMCA takedown in the video or whatever, and it was just like someone's actually trying to sort of open the community up, and they like some runners are just bitter about it, and they just don't want it to be opened up. Now, that narrative may not be exact. Apollo Legends' work is purely derivative. It is covered by fair use, I believe, but it is purely derivative, so I can see why a speedrunner would be a little itchy about it. But then Apollo Legend points out the dude who took down his video is also just posting, like, the weakest fucking meme videos he can. Like, oh, here's the Nut Shack intro, but every time they say Nut Shack, it's a runner getting a world record. Like, come the fuck on, dude. You're producing the same content, but you're making the presentation drastically worse. David, I gotta be honest. For the first episode that you're not drinking for, you're not very talkative.
Well, now I'm listening. I'm just taking it in. I haven't had a whole lot to commentate on.
Maybe you should drink more during the episodes.
Shut up, Dylan.
The second is Mr. Hyrule Gamer. Mr. Hyrule Gamer's an internet nobody who makes cringe compilations specifically about speedrunners. They're pretty good, but he doesn't find anything particularly new or particularly deep. A lot of it's just taken from Apollo Legends, Salt compilations. He did do some deep dives on a user named Chibi every once in a while, and his newer content is getting a lot better. It's pretty good, I think, but it was a little rough there for a while. He recently put out a video called The Problem with Speedrunning, where he analyzes all the issues with speedrunning. Primarily, speedrunning is an antisocial activity inherently, and as a result, many speedrunners are awkward and weird and kind of hard to talk to, so the runs stop becoming entertaining relatively quickly. The third is a user named R White Goose, who is a GoldenEye speedrunner. He's a pretty good one. He has a handful of world records, and I think I don't know what his rank is, but I think it's relatively high. R White Goose produces a fair amount of YouTube content based around GoldenEye, in which he will talk about like the history of the elite rankings. He will talk about the history of the game. He will sort of go through the 20-year history of GoldenEye and show you how runners have progressed in a level over like an hour. And his content's, I think, genuinely interesting. But there is a real sense that our White Goose is he's intentionally distancing himself from speedrunners the same way that like game websites would distance themselves from gamers during Gamergate. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
All the gamers are dead and gamers don't have to be your audience. Horseshit.
Yeah, kind of.
Which is still going on. Fucking today, Motherboard posted an article that was titled, "The Nintendo Switch is for normal people, not gamers." Like, what the fuck? Come on. Are we still doing this shit? It's 2017. Gamergate ended 6 years ago.
It hasn't been
But I
6
digress.
years.
Well, when we cover it, we'll find out how long it's been.
We're never gonna cover it, so shut the fuck up.
Oh, you say that, but I've gotten you to cover the Game Awards like 6 times.
Yeah, but that's because you trick me.
I can trick you. Wait till you find out who our last speedrunner is.
The last time was broken because I refused to be there.
It feels like you refused to be here, to be honest, David.
Shut up, Dylan. I'm listening to the speedrunner stuff. We're getting into the good stuff now with the people and the things.
So our White Goose is Our White Goose is, I think a lot of its content is genuinely entertaining, but it does seem like he's trying to play into the perception of speedrunners as degenerates rather than giving an honest view into the world of speedrunning. So he has garnered a fair amount of backlash in the community, which I think is justified. It does feel a little bit like he is kind of profiting off of the perception of speedrunning rather than honestly portraying it. That being said, his content's not hyper edited. Like, he has a few videos that are pretty like tightly edited, but most of it is him on stream and watching world records and talking about them. Like, a lot of his videos are about as edited as our videos are. So he's nowhere like the narrative that our White Goose is somehow becoming a master content creator is not there. I don't know if he still actively runs, but I believe he does. I wasn't able to verify this, but our White Goose likes to present himself as above the degenerates of speedrunning when he himself is 27 and lives in his mom's basement. So, you know, class houses.
So he commentates on. He's not a speedrunner. He commentates.
No, he is a speedrunner. He is a GoldenEye runner, and he's a good one. He is like high in the rankings. He has world records, but he has also begun to shift into talking about the history of GoldenEye speedruns. And in those videos, he's just talking over other videos.
Okay.
He's not like doing crazy fucking edits or anything. He's not editing at all. It's just a snippet of a live stream.
Okay.
So our White Goose, I will say...
Why does he think speedrunners are degenerates, and why does he find himself above them?
He thinks speedrunners are degenerates because, let's be honest, there's a hell of a lot of evidence for it. He does a pretty good video called "The Greatest Acts of Degeneracy in the Elite." And some of them are just like people who are getting to world records, but they can't, like, they've been getting world records for 6 years, but they don't count because they're still using a camcorder and they're not even like using a capture card. And the camcorders aren't considered a legitimate way of recording your record anymore. So they don't count as world records.
Jesus
Of just this weird shit.
Why? That's so easy not to do.
One user gave a tour of his house after he got a world record, and his dishes had piled up, and he said that he had not done the dishes since his friend had come over. His friend was another speedrunner who had visited him one time a month ago, and he had just let the dishes pile up.
For a month? Ew.
For a month.
That's horrible.
It's like the opening of What We Do in the Shadows. Like, it's just like the dishes haven't been done in 5 years. Most speedrunners don't have jobs. Most of them work part-time, if at all. They don't really have higher goals in life. They don't really have education goals. They're not charismatic. They're not that interesting. Most of them still live at home, and there's dozens upon dozens of videos of speedrunners getting in fights with their parents on stream. It's just a general. I mean, our White Goose is one of those people because he still lives in his parents' basement, but still. Our White Goose, I'll say this: he at least looks and sounds like a normal person. Like, he's got good diction, which most speedrunners don't even have. Our White Goose is also known as Angry Vince Vaughn because he looks and sounds a lot like Vince Vaughn, and he had a massive tirade on Christmas one year about how speedrunning is the most degenerate act man has ever made. It's a pretty great video.
That's pretty nuts.
I like our White Goose, though. I watch his content. So who are the notable runners in the community? The first and the most notable is going to be Cosmo.
Okay.
Cosmo Wright is, if not the greatest speedrunner, the most influential speedrunner. He runs just about all the 3D Zeldas and some of the 2D ones as well, as I believe. And he was consistently breaking world records left and right. He would find crazy fucking techniques, and he would, quote unquote, clutch the run better than anyone else could. Cosmo was just a level-headed person who could very clearly describe what was happening on screen in a very concise manner. He was someone that anyone could watch and understand what was happening on the screen. And he stood out. When AGDQ made it big, it was partially because Cosmo's Ocarina of Time run was so easy to watch and so easy to understand because of his commentary for it. You can basically trace GDQ's success almost single-handedly to Cosmo's run of Ocarina of Time in 2013.
Holy shit.
Cosmo is a huge influence. And when I first read about this, I was like, I've never heard of Cosmo. And then when I was reading up about Cosmo, I realized that like 4 years ago, I actually watched like 3 or 4 of Cosmo's speedruns. I just sort of did it. Yeah, without realizing it. Like, while looking it up, I was like, oh, wait, it's that dude. I've seen him play Wind Waker. He's really good. I feel like I told you about that. You probably won't be able to remember it, but I feel like at some point I was telling you about me watching Wind Waker speedruns all day.
I vaguely remember that.
It was a long-ass time ago. So where do you think Cosmo is today?
In a ditch in his parents' basement.
Where has every main subject of this podcast eventually gone?
To the hospital for suicide watch.
No, not yet.
Something awful.
In late 2015 to early 2016, Cosmo came out not as Cosmo Wright, but as Narcissa Wright. Which is a very unfortunate name for anyone. If you're going to become a transsexual, don't pick your new name from a character from Harry Potter. Just don't. Bad idea. Whew. So what happened? How did Cosmo go from being the most influential person in the community in 2013 to Narcissa Wright, who is, by all accounts, just a shitty person? So in 2014, Cosmo produced a very particular speedrun. A speedrun of Ocarina of Time at 18 minutes, 10 seconds. This was the world record. And it was the tightest world record for Ocarina of Time anyone had done. And Cosmo was certain this record would not be beaten for years. How long do you think the record lasted?
6 months.
Yes.
Seriously?
It was 6 months before someone else beat him by like 3 seconds.
That's crazy.
Now, you have to understand, Cosmo didn't just play the game faster. Cosmo went and he bought something called an IQ, an little I, big Q, UE. David, have you ever heard of the IQ?
No.
The IQ is Nintendo's way of getting around China's video game console ban. It's the console is all inside the controller, and it was a way for people in China to play N64 games. Now, it was a Nintendo product. Nintendo made it. They licensed it and they made it. So it was eligible for the speedrun because it was made on actual Nintendo hardware. It wasn't an emulator.
Okay.
And because it was a physical thing doing this, it loaded much faster than the other versions of the game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like the text would go by slightly faster, and that can accumulate to a difference of minutes. So it wasn't necessarily all skill, so much as it was hardware. And like everything else in the fucking speedrunning community, it fragmented the Zelda community over whether or not the IQ should be allowed. And it comes down to, is this personal betterment or is this about competition? If it's competition, maybe it shouldn't be because they're hard to get a hold of. But if it's personal betterment, then it should be up to the individual runners.
Okay, right.
So he had gone out of his way to buy this fucking Chinese Nintendo console, and someone else had beaten him. And then not much longer after that, another user found a much faster route that cut like 20 seconds further. And that version could only be done on the virtual console version. That glitch did not exist in the IQ version of the game.
So that's a division, right? Because then does it matter which version? Like
it generally doesn't. Like they'll take note of it, but it's generally agreed that the games have the same content. It's just which glitches are in which version. So there's a glitch in the Japanese VC version that's not in any other version. So that's the one that the world records are on. But it's not considered separate from, say, American runs or IQ runs. It's up to you whether or not to use that version of the game. Because it's just as easy for you to find a glitch only in your version that cuts even more time out. Now, at the same time, there are allegations that Cosmo's girlfriend had cheated on him at AGDQ 2014. Apparently, Cosmo's girlfriend cheated on him pretty frequently. And this kind of comes back to the notion that speedrunners are inherently antisocial. And I want to compare this to the fighting game community real fast.
Okay.
The fighting game community is composed of pretty similar people to the speedrunning community. A lot of people who work shitty jobs, they live in the lower class, this is their only real hobby. But the fighting game community is significantly more open. It's a lot more vibrant, and the people in it are a lot more interesting. Even the worst people in the FGC, even Darkside Phil, is entertaining. But the top speedrunners, of the top speedrunners, not more than a dozen are actually engaging to watch. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is fighting games are a social thing. The arcade was a social place.
Right.
Going to the arcade was where you and your friends went, and that's how you made friends. You and some dude would throw down in Street Fighter enough times that you'd play other games and eventually go do other shit with. for a lot of people in the FGC, they have friends from all over the country, and when they go to tournaments, they don't really go to compete. They go to fuck around with their friends. And because of this, they still have social skills. And because they're still working jobs, because they're older than the speedrunning community usually, they like meet and talk to people. So a lot of them still have like girlfriends or friends that they have in real life. And streaming is something they do when they come home. And it's a fun way to waste time. Because you're going to play Fighter anyway, you might as well let some people watch do it.
Right.
Speedrunning is inherently singular. It is, to go back to the monk metaphor, something you do in complete isolation. In the ideal circumstance, you wouldn't even stream. You would only stream if you thought you could make some money doing it, and because they don't have jobs, they need money. But ideally, I would say the world's greatest speedrunner is just a dude who goes to work and he comes home and he plays the game. And he sees his score and he's happy with it. He doesn't upload it. He doesn't tell anyone. He has hit enlightenment for himself because of this. That's the end goal of speedrunning. So as a result, while the novelty of speedrunning is interesting, it ultimately goes nowhere. The people who are speedrunning at the highest caliber aren't engaging, so they're not retaining an audience. The only audience they have are other speedrunners or people who want to speedrun.
Okay.
So when a dude like Cosmo gets a 7 out of 10 girlfriend and she cheats on him all the time, he's not going to leave her because he doesn't know the next time he's going to get a girl, you know? And that's the reoccurring theme within the speedrunning community. In AGDQ 2014, the event was bigger than it had ever been. This is arguably where the normies come in. This is where other people in video games come in. And these people, because they still have social skills, are able to get these fucking broads who don't really give a shit about the speedrunners they're with. Let's be honest. Let's call them what they are. There's a shit ton of gold diggers in the speedrunning community. And if they can meet a dude who makes more money and is moderately more attractive, they'll get with him instead.
That's horrible.
I know it's horrible, David, okay? But this is what life is like when you're a fucking beta cuck male, okay, David? Now let me tell you about the Antifa, and let me tell you why Trump is making this world a better place.
Shut the fuck up, asshole.
So, like, 4 or 5 people in the last episode in the comments were like, why the fuck are these left-leaning shitheads so bad? Like, and we didn't say anything all that... Really? Yeah. It's fucking weird. Like, I actively disagreed with you about Richard Spencer. And people are like, why are they both so fucking beta males? Like, calm down, dude. But I digress. Speedrunners are beta, not in, like, the derogatory way, but in that... they are submissive people. They like repetition. They like consistency. That's why they play the same fucking games constantly. You know? I can't play the same fucking game for more than an hour without fucking getting distracted. I can't sit in the same spot for more than 3 hours without having to get up and do something else.
That's true.
Or be a speedrunner. I get fucking antsy doing this, for God's sakes. So anyway, Cosmo,
keep going. Okay.
Cosmo was going to propose to his girlfriend. He actually might have proposed to her, and she broke up with him in 2015, I believe. So he's alone, and you know he underwent such a torrent of abuse from her, emotional abuse, albeit, to be with her, and she leaves him. And then the Nintendo World Championship happens.
Okay.
Do you remember the Nintendo World Championship, David, from 2015?
No. Not
You
at all.
you probably will when I start talking. So in 2015, to promote the release of a handful of video games, Nintendo brought back the Nintendo World Championship. They brought in some of the greatest members of the community, pro-level Melee players, speedrunners, YouTubers, all this other shit, among them being Cosmo. They also brought in 6 no-name people who won contests at Best Buy across the country.
Okay, I do remember this.
Yeah, now you remember. And they competed. And it was like there were Smash Brothers, because Smash 4 hadn't come out, Mario Maker, all this other shit. And the final game came down to a like super difficult Mario level. And it was Cosmo versus a guy named John Numbers. Cosmo, one of the greatest speedrunners ever, and John Numbers, who won a raffle. Cosmo couldn't get out of the first room, and John Numbers wiped the fucking floor with him. He absolutely fucking destroyed him.
Jeez.
And the first room is fucking wall jump 3 times. That's it. It's not a hard room. It's something you have to actually do in a normal Mario game to finish the game.
Okay, I remember you telling me about this now.
And so that's another question of, does Cosmo have carpal tunnel syndrome? Because carpal tunnel syndrome is not common in speedrunners, because I think, isn't carpal tunnel mostly in the wrist?
Yes.
So yeah, if you're doing finger motions, you're not probably going to get it. But people who play Melee competitively, they get carpal tunnel all the fucking time. And Cosmo did play Melee a little bit. Maybe not Melee, but he played like Brawl and Smash 4, not competitively. He was an amateur, but he could play at a competitive level.
Okay.
And he could play at a competitive level with the worst character in the game. He was playing with Zelda, who is one of the worst characters in Smash Brothers ever. And he was winning. He was ranking in like the top 6 or top 7 sometimes.
Wow. Why is Zelda the worst character?
Because she just has shitty priorities. I think officially they count Zelda and Sheik differently. Like, even when they are the same character, you're never supposed to just be Zelda. But he would just be Zelda. He just liked her. And he was so fucking good at the game, he could beat people with her. It's crazy.
Okay.
No, no word on whether or not Cosmo could have taken Phil's spot at Evo as the top-ranked North American player, but maybe. I love you, Phil. At Ralph Seppi. Hit me up.
Sure.
So if he's got fucked up hands, yeah. So he loses the Nintendo World Championship. He chokes so fucking hard in front of 150,000 people live. His girlfriend leaves him, and his magnum opus world record is destroyed within months. Seems to have caused a psychotic break in Cosmo, and that's why he becomes Narcissa Wright.
Okay.
Narcissa Wright has spent the last year live streaming herself in her house. You ever see those streams from Japan where it's like crazy people who are hoarders and they just stream themselves all day?
No.
There's like a ton of videos of people in Japan and they just live in their houses and they don't do anything. It's just constant. That's Narcissa Wright. She will stream herself sleeping for 12 or 13 hours at a time. She just streams all day. She has no job. She has no significant other. She has no friends, no family. People don't even watch her anymore. We're talking sub 200 viewers. Sometimes we get more viewers on our shitty podcast that we don't announce we're doing live streams for.
What the fuck?
Once one of the greatest speedrunners ever, now is basically a cam girl who doesn't put out. Now, Narcissa has spent the last year or so guaranteed that if she can make it to the release of Breath of the Wild, she will become another world-class speedrunner. She will destroy Breath of the Wild at launch, and she will maintain her stance as the queen of Zelda once again. There are 2 days from the release of Breath of the Wild as of this posting. So come next week, we will know whether or not Narcissa Wright is indeed the queen of Zelda. She's not. Spoilers.
Okay.
Also, Narcissa Wright only eats Soylent.
I ate Soylent before.
But you ate other food with it.
That's true.
And you only ate or drank it out of the novelty. Like, honestly, Soylent as an idea, I could get behind it. Like, if I could buy it at a store and it's like, hey, man, don't eat, just drink this thing. Because that's how I eat. I, like, nibble on shit constantly. And so if I could just drink this thing every once in a while and it tastes okay, yeah, I'll do that instead. But every once in a while, I'd go and I'd eat normal food. I'd like, my family wants to go out sometimes. I'd be like, all right, let's go out. Or like, you know, I'd order other food because me and my friend are playing video games and we don't want to be sucking on this Soylent bottle together. We're just going to eat pizza and suck on other things. Narcissa Wright has posted her fridge. It's Soylent. It's just Soylent. Dozens of bottles of Soylent.
That's weird.
One of the theories is that the Soylent, because Soylent has a high lead content, it might have actually driven her insane.
Wait, it has a high lead content?
No, it doesn't really. So there was some hubbub because the state of California was like, your lead content's too high. But it's well within the FDA's regulations. It's within every other group's regulations except for California because they have like ludicrously low regulations for lead and shit. So it's fine, but it's fun to joke about. She's also a slam poet.
Oh God.
Let me I have some of it linked here. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay. I'm just going to read whatever the fuck this is. I don't know what it is, but it's long as shit. I'm just going to read whatever's here at the start. It was like I'm building a shell. You don't have to worry about typos. Ha ha. Yeah, it is like that. Damn. Ha ha ha. I'm like connected with the whole by taking in the lot of you. Is that how it could work? Ha ha ha. Am I a caveman slapping keys? Hell no. Hell no, I'm not. This is like art, kind of. Thoughts racing and I grab them. It becomes poetry. But that's pretentious. So instead of thinking me clever for that, try to judge me by what I'm actually saying. Jeez.
No, never do that again.
Wow. There's chapters and chapters of that horse shit that she has posted to places. Oh, holy shit. Other speedrunners. Some of this I have to go from memory, so excuse me if I'm wrong. Worcester. Worcester is a Pokemon speedrunner who is an insufferable autistic Australian man. Worcester's only notable. He was notable back in the day because let me take you down memory lane real fast, David. This is partially why people think of speedrunning as a cringy thing that like only weirdos do. Back in the day, 2010 and pre-2010, if you wanted to find cringy content on YouTube, you just had to hope someone on 4chan was talking about it. You didn't have the luxury of 30 fucking channels making cringe compilations for you, okay?
Right.
It was hard, you know? You just had to hope someone else had something. And if you were on V, which is the most popular board, so of course you were.
Of course, yeah. I was on V.
You would just, if you wanted to start a thread, the easiest way to do it, to make it look like it was on topic when it really wasn't, was to post a speedrunner freaking out. And Worcester was the best, because he would constantly freak out. because he would spend 8 or 9 hours speedrunning a Pokemon game, and then he would just get fucked over by something minor. He would get fucked over because a computer decided to arbitrarily go left instead of right, or something else stupid like that. And he would freak the fuck out. And he was entertaining. The Australians, when the Australians get angry, David, they're amazing people.
Oh yeah.
Let me see if I can recite one of Worcester's rants from memory. I think I can do it. After he lost one of his runs, I believe it was banned. Now imagine a chainsaw. Now imagine every person in that marching band has a dick.
Okay.
Now imagine every dick in that marching band is on that chainsaw, and they're all ejaculating all at once. That's the taste in my mouth right now. I think I got that pretty close. I'm pretty positive that's what he said. I got the marching band and the chainsaw and the mouth, so I got all the big points. Real creative fellow.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
At like AGDQ 2011, Worcester saw a post on VG, which is the general board for video games on 4chan, who said that if Worcester shouted fucking niggers, he would donate $1,000. And Worcester did it on stream. He just shouted fucking niggers.
What the fuck?
And then he said, I'm calling you out, man. He was banned from AGDQ, not for that. I don't know when he was banned, but he got banned because he kept stealing people's hotel keys.
Why?
And he posted it to Twitter. He had like 80 hotel keys that he was just stealing from people to make their lives harder.
What an asshole.
But that's pretty fucking great, to be honest.
What a fucking douchebag.
So in like 2011, 2012, the video dropped. Worcester was trying to run Wario Land, like 2 or 3. And I'm sure you know, David, Wario Land is a very happy game. Excuse me. Wario Land is a very happy game. It's very bright. It's very colorful. The map screen for Wario Land has this very nice tone, and it goes from left to right. It's very pretty. While that's happening, in the background, Worcester is having a shouting match with his mom. Now, what could he be having a shouting match with his mom about?
Chocolate milk.
No, worse.
Masturbating.
No, worse. When I say worst, I mean, I'm not saying it was something petty. I'm saying he had a real good fucking reason to yell at his mom.
What was his mom doing?
I want you to guess. I want you to try to guess with our new criteria.
Vacuuming in front of him.
No.
Oh, I don't know.
I want you to imagine. Don't imagine this is about a speedrunner. Don't imagine it came from the internet. You're talking to your mom, and you're going to shout at her as loud as you can in front of hundreds of people, maybe thousands. What reason would you have to justify it to yourself? What reason would you have that when someone explains it, they're like, "Oh, David was right to do that"?
Dude, I don't know.
So strap in, David, because this is going to get crazy. Worcester's girlfriend was cheating on him with his brother. Not only did his mom know about it, not only did his mom facilitate it by driving them around behind Worcester's back, but his mom is the one who set them up together.
What the fuck?
And as he's tearing the fuck into her, You can hear her saying shit like, well, you should have treated her better and she wouldn't have left you.
Oh my god.
I told
Holy
you.
fuck. Yeah, okay, yeah, no. Yeah, you were right.
Yeah, it's so in such circumstance, Worcester kind of came out pretty good, I think, all things considered. He is, if nothing else, entertaining. Worcester also has one of the longest speed runs. He has a speed run of Pokemon Stadium that I think lasts for like 26 hours.
Okay.
Now, what you're saying, David, does he just not piss or shit or sleep during that? Nope, just doesn't.
Wait, what?
He just doesn't. Or if he does, he has to like time it very precisely to go at like certain points of the game. But I don't think you could because Pokemon Stadium doesn't have a story or anything. It's just Pokemon. Might have to look more into that. The longest speedrunning world record, quick aside, is a game called Kados. It is an obscure PS2 JRPG about card collecting, and it takes
Wait, what is it
300. Baten Kados.
That's a GameCube game.
GameCube game. Who
That's
the
a
fuck?
GameCube exclusive game.
Who the fuck?
There were
cares?
two Baten Kaitos.
You know what?
Games.
This is where your episode starts, David. David, how the fuck do you know that? That's insane.
Because I read Nintendo Power at that time, and
you read
Kaitos.
You didn't even play it, and you somehow remembered it.
Because Baten Kaitos. Wait, am I thinking of different games? Maybe.
I'm spending all my fucking time compiling notes. Meanwhile, I got fucking Rain Man over here playing New Vegas while I'm doing all the hard work.
Okay. No, I am thinking about that. Yeah, it was a GameCube
Jesus
exclusive,
Christ.
And the sequel had an entirely claymation level. That's why I remember it. Because I remember seeing screenshots from the sequel and was like, holy shit, that looks cool. Fuck you.
So Baten Kados, GameCube exclusive JRPG about card battling, has a speed run of 320 hours. Non-segmented, single run. Now, why does it take so long? Well, it takes so long because the game has items that evolve in real time, and you cannot fudge them by just setting the clock forward. They have to actually be going with the game clock. One of them takes 15 days to evolve. Hence the length of the game.
Fuck.
So the dude didn't have to play for 15 straight days. The dude just had to... He only had to play for 4 hours a day, and he was able to sleep and work and eat at his leisure. But still, it's an impressive feat.
Yeah.
The longest proposed speedrun, that is the longest speedrun that was attempted but not finished, was Digimon World 3. Don't know the name of the user who did this one. I'm sorry, dude. It was said to take 500 hours minimum. He was shooting for 400 hours. He made it about 300 hours before he just had to give up. His body couldn't take it anymore. And he did a second attempt where he made it 150 hours, but again, he just gave up. His body could not continue.
Jesus Christ.
Now, what makes that interesting is at a point, that speedrun is not about finishing the game faster. That speedrun is about having better endurance than the record holder. I can sleep with 2 less hours of sleep. And if I can shit and piss like half the frequency of he, and if I can have someone else bring me food, I can beat his time by like 50 hours or something like that. And that's like the macro idea of speedrunning, not as personal skill, but as having better endurance than the other player.
Jesus.
Although it does not matter because the run has never been completed. So theoretically, anyone who is able to complete the run while without turning off the console and while technically streaming the whole thing would win. What else do we got here?
But why would anyone do that?
Why would anyone do any of this, David? Why would you ask that question? Why would anyone spend their free time looking up all these internet weirdos and then do a podcast about it? Why would anyone remember this semi-obscure card collecting game from 17 years ago that only came out on the GameCube and not the PS2, even though it was the PlayStation 2 era, so I got the fucking time correctly at least?
Shut the fuck up.
What else is there? What else is there? What else is there in terms of speedrunners? Trihex. Trihex is a Yoshi's Island speedrunner. I mentioned Trihex because back when in like 2013, I tried to get into Twitch. Like I tried to get into watching Twitch regularly instead of YouTube. Didn't take because Twitch is a fucking cesspool. And Trihex was one of the people I watched. He does speedruns of Yoshi's Island. And sometimes it's hard to tell if Trihex is cool or if Trihex is just black. But I do think he's a genuinely fun person to watch. He's also, again, one of like the 12 speedrunners who's genuinely charismatic and actually has a life outside of speedrunning. He goes to the gym to make up for his sedimentary lifestyle.
Oh,
So
wow.
Trihex, you're pretty cool in my book. There's some strong theorizing that Trihex went to AGDQ 2014 and saw all the cheating that was going on between runners and shit and was like, well, I don't want that to happen to me. And then he decided to bulk up so he could get a worthwhile girl, which I think is a little stupid. I just think he went to the gym because he was because he wanted to go to the gym. Who else? So I think that's all the ones I can name purely from memory. There's dozens of more speedrunning stories from different speedrunners that are worth mentioning. But I want to finish out here with the story of Sam and Tolkien.
Okay.
Sam and Tolkien, now this is only tangentially related to speedrunning, to be honest, but it's a really good story, so I'm going to tell it anyway. Sam and Tolkien are high school sweethearts who dropped out of high school to become married at 17.
Oh, God.
And in 2013, 2014, they had a Twitch show called Show Video Games. See, instead of video game show the video games because it's a stream of it. You get it?
Yes.
Do I have to explain it again?
No.
Sorry,
Yes.
David.
No.
Show Video Games grew to notoriety in Twitch because they did and get fucking ready, 720-hour marathon of Pokemon.
How? Who would watch that?
They had to do it in shifts. They had like a few hours where they were both streaming, and then one would go to sleep while the other continued to stream, and then they would swap off like that. And they did this for a fucking month. A month, nonstop. I'm going to be honest with you, David. I bet if you played at a normal pace, it would not take you 720 hours to finish every Pokemon game. Plus, the amateur speedrunner Sam and Tolkien.
Jesus fuck.
I'm counting spin-offs when I say that, too. I'm not just talking the colored ones. I'm talking red, blue, yellow, and Stadium, and Coliseum, and fucking Battle Revolution, and all the other shitty side ones, the Pokepark things, the weird Tetris one that came out on the DS that no one but me remembers. Like, all of them, I don't think would take you 720 hours. Between two people. This was followed up.
How did it take them that long?
That was their idea. No, it did not take them that long. That was their goal. They set up a 720-hour stream because there's 720 Pokemon. I think there's more now. Yeah, there's more now. But there were 720 at the time. This was followed by a 500-hour Mario Kart marathon. That was followed by a 2-day-long encore marathon of, I don't know what the fuck they could have done for that, because how do you even follow it up?
Why? What? Why? Why would they? This doesn't even sound like. This doesn't make it. This isn't speed running now, is it?
No. But they were in like the speedrunning community, and they were popular. Like, you can say what you want, David, but
how could you be popular for doing this shit? This is so stupid.
Motherfuckers tuned in. Like, they were getting like upwards of 100,000 viewers daily. Like, congruent. That's crazy good numbers for Twitch. And people would watch it because they're the most popular games. They're universal acclaim, and it's always on. You don't have to take the risk. It's like, well, nothing else is on, Sam and Tolkien are probably doing something fucking stupid. Might as well watch them do it for weeks at a time. Fuck, dude. So AGDQ 2014 comes up. I want to point out, you know the GDQ cringe thing, the definitive one that everyone knows.
Maybe
the I'd really prefer if you'd be quiet thing.
Yes.
That happened at 2014.
Okay.
Along with everything else. Quick aside, the dude that he told to be quiet is named Chibi. There's a shit ton of awful shit about him. When he was younger, he wore a dog collar everywhere.
Why?
Because it helped keep his dark energy in check.
What?
He was banned not just from GDQ, but all speedrunning activities for life because he cheated in a Paper Mario run that he didn't even come close to the world record on anyway.
Why? How did he cheat, and why did he cheat?
There's like a super crazy difficult jump you can do. Do you remember in Paper Mario how you get to Twilight Town?
No.
In the sewers? It's where you meet the ghost girl who's actually a boy, but I had a crush on her when I was a kid, so I don't like to talk about it.
Except you bring it up here.
Yeah. You need like a special like long jump power from late in the game, but there are flying enemies, and if you time a jump very specifically, if you hit an enemy in the air, when you come out of the battle for like not even a second, you can jump again, and you can make that jump, and it cuts like 3 hours out of your time. But it's almost impossible for a normal person to do reliably. So Chibi faked it. He like had like a bot ready, and when he did the jump, like when he came out of the screen, he had the bot do it for him. And then someone like brought it up to him, and he admitted to it, and he was like banned across the board. And you'd figure that would
understand that though, right?
Well, yeah, like if you're gonna cheat and you get like these are the fucking monks, and you find out one of them's not actually polishing the statue. He's just painting over it. Like, yeah, you got to get out of the monastery, bud. Sorry. And that's kind of the end of Chibi's story. But every few months, he does something else really fucking stupid.
Okay.
Most recently, when Satoru Iwata died, he held a mock funeral for him where he sang some obscure song for Satoru Iwata, and he got all dressed up on stream. It was weird.
That is incredibly weird.
So, AGDQ 2014, Sam and Tolkien have a falling out. They go to AGDQ 2014, everything seems hunky-dory, and they don't come back. As in,
what?
on Monday, when they were scheduled to return to Twitch, they didn't. And no one knew why they didn't. And no one knew A, no one knew why they didn't. And B, what was I
Yes.
saying? Wait, hold on.
Sam and
Sorry, I'm trying to.
did not come back to Twitch, and no one knew why.
Sorry, I'm trying to make sure. I'm still learning the way of the phone, so I'm trying to make sure that I'm still in the call. God damn it. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. I think my video was playing there for a minute, but who gives a shit? It's not like you can see anything. I'm a fat white guy with a beard. Who would have guessed? Anyway. Sam and Tolkien don't come back from Twitch. And we just don't hear about them. And you have to understand, Sam and Tolkien weren't just YouTubers. Or they weren't just Twitch streamers. They had a community. They had people who were in that chat room waiting for them, and they were talking to each other because they were friends. They would just show up in the chat and talk to each other. They didn't get the alert that they were going to be there. They just knew, and they wanted to be there to watch them. So the show video games subreddits closes down, but the users aren't having it, and they create R, Sam, and Tolkien. And they spend the next 2 years as internet detectives trying to discover what happened to Sam and Tolkien at AGDQ 2014.
Because they just disappeared. Like neither of them went back. Like were they on social media and stuff? Like
they disappeared from the internet entirely. So I should point out, for some fucking reason, every user or most speedrunners, when they have announcements to make, they just make a paste bin, and just put the link out there. They don't actually like have an archive of this shit. So some of it's real fucking hard to find.
Okay.
A user named Stivey Bobby, Stives. We'll just call him Stives because that's what he calls himself.
Okay.
Made a paste bin and sent it to Sam, and it was an apology. And he said, I can't speak for the other guys, but I can tell you that what I did with Tolkien was the biggest mistake of my life.
Wait, what?
So it sounds pretty easily. It sounds like Sam and a bunch of other speedrunners just ran a train on Tolkien. Not Sam, Stives.
Wait,
so
what?
Now that's what it sounds like. The way he words it, he makes it very clear that he and Tolkien did some infidelity, I suppose. It's hard to read it any other way.
Tolkien's a dude, right?
Tolkien's a girl. Sam is the dude.
Okay.
So now the community is scrambling. Stives makes another post where he addresses it directly to the community. This one he says is open. The last one was supposed to be private. But in the other one, in this one he says that all they did was make out. But in the other one, the way he alludes to the others makes it sound like there was more happening than that. One user did a pretty good breakdown where you can see when he's just talking to Sam, or when he believes he's just talking to Sam, he sounds very apologetic, and he sounds like what he did was a huge issue. But when he's talking to the greater public who don't know exactly what he did, because Tolkien's not telling us, he's a lot more like reserved, I suppose, in what he actually did. He doesn't want to reveal what he did. He's trying to downplay it, which leads many to believe that he's lying about the making out part, that he really did go to Bone Town with Tolkien or whatever.
Jesus.
And this extends for the next 2 years of shit, of people like, you can see, here's Sam on the couch of another run, and he looks super fucking nervous. And this is like 3 a.m, so this would have been about when it happened. and all these other horror stories of like Cosmo's girlfriend was blowing 2 dudes in the bathroom or whatever, so I wouldn't Tolkien, you know? And I spent a night with some friends just going through this master timeline of what happened to Sam and Tolkien, and it's all fucking retarded. There's the main admin for our Sam and Tolkien is a dude named Haberdasher A. He's the biggest fucking autist I've ever met in my life, and I want to like, dude, you got to understand. I've met some bad ones, okay? I got bad company that I keep. This dude's the next fucking level. This dude did a breakdown post about how Trihex and his girlfriend are the new Twitch power couple. But half of the post is about how Trihex's roommate comes in and about how his girlfriend won't stop looking at his roommate's dick.
What the fuck?
It's crazy. So I don't trust anything these fuckwads say until Sam does come back to streaming. In 2016, late 2016, Sam returns to Twitch and begins show video games again. By himself. So where's Tolkien? Now, many assumed Sam just kicked Tolkien to the edge, to the curb. He just didn't want anything to do with her. But that's not true at all. Sam and Tolkien are still married. They still live together, and they still seem to be in a relationship together. But they're not doing the Twitch show together. I believe Tolkien now has also returned to streaming in her own solo capacity, but the two are not doing the show together, and it's unclear why at this time, I believe.
That's really weird.
It's super weird, but it's not impossible that there was infidelity and Sam just doesn't care, as we've earlier stated, because he's afraid to be alone.
Or they, worked through it as a couple, like that can happen.
You can't fucking do that when you're 20.
Oh yeah, I forgot how young they were. No,
They're like,
okay.
They're maybe 22, maybe 20 fucking 2.
When
I guarantee you the only reason they're
said married, that always throws me off.
I had a point to make and I got lost in another point in my head. Fuck. Yeah, they're not working shit out. The main reason is, I think, because Sam is A, afraid to be alone, and B, they're Mormons.
Why didn't you bring that up sooner?
But I thought it would be funner to do it at the end. Which aren't Mormons cool with polygamy?
Not like that.
Maybe not exactly like that.
It's when anytime anyone's okay with polygamy, it's always in favor of the dude fucking as many girls as you want, because religions are fucked up like that.
I'm going to take a hard stance that polygamy is bad.
Yes.
Not like possible or like should be outlawed. I'm just going to straight up say polygamy is not good for people. People can't handle it.
No, they can't.
All right, there you go. The official, it came from the internet stance, no polygamy.
Not because we're morally opposed to it, but because people's brains it fucks up people's brains.
So we've agreed that Richard Spencer getting hit in the face is funny, but the media shouldn't treat it that way. No polygamy. We agree that Legion's a good show. So there you go. That's everything you need.
And we think that religion is bad, except when in reference to the Holy Bear Conductor.
Sure. Let's go with that. I'll put that on fucking. I'll have that argument in the comments for the next 2 weeks.
Did you see Rachel Dolezal's on food stamps?
Oh, I guess she is
and
black.
Almost homeless. What?
I guess she is black after all. Who knew?
You fucking asshole.
Good night, everybody. That's the end. There's a whole other world of speedrunning, but it's all locked away in Twitch VODs and other shit.
So that's just it. We don't know what really happened. We just know it was
No,
bad.
we still don't. We just know that it was bad enough for them to quit the Twitch show, and that Tolkien had relations of some sort with Stives and probably other dudes. But how far that went is unclear. And also, Trihex's girlfriend is really into his roommate, I guess.
Which she won't stop staring.
Take a fucking moment. The dude's point. The dude's point is, I didn't watch the video, so maybe it's different. But the dude's point is that she's shifting uncomfortably whenever the roommate is in the room, and that she's constantly looking at him. But the problem is, she's not looking at him because he's got a huge package or anything. She's looking at him because she wants him to leave because it's awkward to have the three people there because she wants to hang out with her boyfriend. That's the reason she's looking at him. She's waiting for him to go away so she can be alone with her dude.
But the guy,
like a normal person.
That's how he interpreted those social cues.
Yeah, because it's fucking insane. David, this is the world we live in. These people are real. That's it. There's nothing else. There's a ton of other shit, but it's all locked away in horse crap and whatever. If you're a speedrunner, or if you know something about a speedrunner and you'd like to be on a follow-up episode of It Came From the Internet, let me know. I'd love to keep doing those interview things. I think they're really good. Hopefully we can reconvene next week and have an update on Narcissa Wright's Legend of Zelda speedrunning career and how that's crashing and burning. If you know anything interesting about speedrunning that you'd like to share with us, feel free to post it in the comments. We read them all. I'm in the midst of an argument over whether or not race is tied to genetics in another video of ours, and that's not fun at all.
Wait, what?
That's another argument I'm having with another dude who's writing fucking essays to me about how intelligence is tied to genetics, and as a result, minorities are inferior. And he's telling this to a man who spends all his free time cataloging all the weird idiosyncrasies of diaper furs. So I think he might be in the wrong. I think he might be barking up the wrong tree, to be honest with you.
I think we're proving our intellectual inferiority with this show every time we record it.
I don't think anyone. Yeah, this is like, I think like if you look at Jahan's and you look at Kelman syndrome, it's hard to deny transsexuality. I think if you look at It Came From the Internet, it's hard. It's hard to deny.
I think so far the entirety of It Came From the Internet is basically, man, white people are fucking stupid.
Sure. We'll cover some black people. Maybe. I guess we haven't covered a black dude yet, have we? Well, we talked about Big John.
Yeah.
He's black.
And Mattress
We
Girl
will
is
eventually
Asian.
talk about Low Tier God.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, don't you worry, David. You'll find out.
All right. So do you know what next time's going to be about?
Next time, I'm going to dig around a little bit. I'm going to see what I can find. I'd like to talk about, a couple things I'd like to talk about is machinima. Another thing I'd like to talk about is lost media in the age of the internet. But we're going to wait and we're going to play this out. We never know what's going to come our way, but hopefully it'll be something good. And we'll see you in 6 years when I finish Nier Automata to my full extent.
And Zelda. And I'll be playing Zelda.
Yeah.
So
I still got to finish Neo, for fuck's sake. The game's fun. It's hard.
You just bought Horizon, too.
God damn it. Why did I do that?
Poor life choices. Bye, everyone.
I'm sure it's fine. Bye.